ago, there lived an emperor who was very fond of fine and fancy clothes. In fact, he loved beautiful clothes so much that he didn't care how much they cost. The emperor was so concerned about his clothes that he did not pay any attention to anything else. His soldiers grew fat and lazy, and his castle began to fall apart. While other kings and emperors were busy in their council chambers, this emperor was busy in his dressing chamber. He had a different royal outfit for every hour of every day. Now it came to pass that two rogues or swindlers arrived in the emperor's city. The rogues called themselves weavers and said they could make the most beautiful clothes in the world. So the emperor called them before him. "Oh, sire, the cloth that we weave," said one of the rogues, "is more than simply beautiful. It's something more. Our clothes appear invisible to anyone who is either a fool or unfit for his job. I must have an outfit made from this remarkable cloth," thought the emperor. "Then I will surely be the finest dressed emperor in all the world, and I will know who is a fool or who is unfit for his job as well." And so the emperor told the rogues to make him a suit from the special fabric. The rogues set to work at once, taking the emperor's exact measurements to make sure the new suit would fit. In return for the new clothes, the emperor agreed to pay the weavers very well. He gave them huge sums of money and provided them with the finest silk and the purest gold thread to use on two large looms. But the crafty weavers stuffed all the silk thread and money in their own bags. Then they sat down and pretended to work at the looms. Before long, everyone was talking about the remarkable clothes the weavers were making for the emperor, and each man and woman was eager to see if his neighbor was unfit for his job or if he was a fool. After some time, the emperor began to wonder how the weavers' work was coming along. They had been working for several days and had asked for even more money to finish the job. The emperor decided to send someone to look at the weaver's cloth. "My faithful minister is a clever man," thought the emperor. "No one is better suited for his job than he is. He will surely be able to see the cloth and to give me an accurate report." The minister walked down the halls of the castle and stopped at the room where the rogues were working. He could hardly imagine how beautiful the new cloth must be, so he hurriedly opened the door. There were the weavers busily working at the looms. "I've come to inspect the cloth for the emperor's new clothes," announced the minister. He leaned over the looms and stared. "Good heavens," he thought, "I see nothing. Is it possible that I am a fool?" "See the beautiful colors and patterns?" asked the rogues, pointing to the imaginary fabric. The minister refused to admit that he saw nothing. Instead, he praised the weavers' work highly. As the rogues spoke, the minister paid close attention to everything they said, so he would be able to repeat it very accurately. Then he hurried back to report to the emperor. The emperor was so delighted with the minister's report that he gave the weavers all the extra silk, gold thread, and money they had asked for. "Since these clothes are so costly," he thought, "they must be special." The rogues again hid all the money, silk, and gold thread. By now, they had several bags, all filled with the costly things the emperor had sent to them. A short time passed, and the emperor sent another messenger to see how the weaver's work was proceeding. This messenger was a high official in whom the emperor had great trust. The trusted official saw nothing on the looms. "I know I am not a fool," he thought to himself, "so I must be unfit for my high position. Perhaps if I pretend to see the fabric, no one will be the wiser." So the trusted official went back to the emperor and reported that on the weaver's looms was the most beautiful cloth he had ever seen. "It is indeed well suited to the emperor's tastes," he said respectfully. The emperor was so pleased that he decided to have a royal procession so he could exhibit his beautiful new clothes. Word quickly spread through the empire, and everyone prepared for the royal procession. Meanwhile, the emperor prepared to examine the remarkable fabric for himself. He assembled a group of statesmen before him, including the minister and the high official who had already seen the weaver's fabric. The emperor then marched through the halls of the castle to the room where the rogues were weaving the imaginary cloth. The two rogues greeted the emperor warmly. "Welcome. You are just in time, Your Majesty. We have just finished weaving the cloth. Come, examine it if you wish." The looms were empty. The emperor was speechless. Then his trusted minister quickly said, "Oh, what a royal design it has!" And the high official said, "And look at the brilliant colors. It is too beautiful for words." "Am I a fool?" thought the emperor. "Am I unfit to be emperor?" But the words he spoke were quite different. "Splendid," he announced. Never have I seen such workmanship." Then all the men who had accompanied the emperor joined in and began praising the cloth the weavers had made. Of course, none of them saw a thing, but none would admit it for fear of being called a fool. "Now we must cut and sew the cloth to make your new clothes," said the rogues. And the emperor replied, "Excellent, for I shall wear the garments in a royal procession tomorrow." All night long, the two rogues kept candles burning in their room to make everyone think they were busy at work. "Tomorrow," they said to one another, "while the emperor walks through the town in his imaginary clothes, we shall walk away with our riches." And just in case anyone was watching, they went through the motions of making the emperor's clothes. First, they held up the cloth and cut it with scissors to just the right size. Then they threaded their needles with invisible thread and pretended to sew the fabric together. By morning, the emperor's new clothes would certainly be ready for the procession. The next day, the emperor arrived bright and early to try on his new clothes. "We are ready," said the rogues. "If your majesty will take off his ordinary clothes, we will help you put on these remarkable clothes." As the rogues handed each garment to the emperor in his underwear, they said, "And here are your beautiful new trousers." Or, "This robe is as light as a feather. If you did not know better, you might even think you had nothing on at all." At last, the emperor was dressed in his new clothes. He turned round and round to make everyone think he was admiring his costume. The emperor seemed very satisfied, as did the rogues. Then a messenger arrived and announced, "The royal procession is ready to begin, Your Majesty." Now, in the tale you may have heard, as the emperor marched down the street, all the townspeople pretended to admire his clothes. But when a small boy suddenly asked, "Where are your clothes?" the townspeople realized that the two rogues had made fools of everyone. But what would happen if we were to give the story a different twist? Suppose the messenger announced, "Your Majesty, the procession is ready to begin." "For one moment," replied the emperor. Then he turned to the rogues and said, First, gather up the scraps of this wonderful material and sew them into a large bag. And the rogues did just as the emperor requested. When the rogues held up the completed bag, the emperor said, "Now you have one large bag instead of all those small ones. So empty your things into the new bag and march next to me in the procession." Now, what would the rogues do? What could they do? What would you do? It's up to you to finish this tale of the emperor's new clothes. Will the rogues manage to fool the emperor again? Will their trickery be discovered? What will happen to the minister and the trusted official who deceived the emperor? You decide. Think up your own ending and complete this tale.